How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
3 weeks and 5 games into the season, Rajasthan Royals finally come home to Jaipur. But standing in front of them, the team that's finding home everywhere it's going away from home. Royal challengers Bengaluru have been on a streak-defying run when they've been away from the Chinnaswamy. Can they find another win, or will it be Rajasthan Royals? Very different starts to the two seasons, and yet it's only 2 points between these teams and 2 spots on the points table as we tuck into Sunday's first game. It is Rajasthan versus RCB, which we build up to. Welcome to Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricinfo Timeout, where the weekend couch continues in fine form. Piyush Chawla, Wasim Jaffer, Matt Roller. Everyone had enough of a rest after last night's quiet little game.
Yeah, I had a good rest. I went back home and I just slept for like good 7-8 hours. So yeah, good rest.
And thanked your stars you didn't have to bowl on that ground.
Yeah, seriously. But I have bowled that on that particular pitch. It is actually started from us when I was playing for MI.
Correct.
That
the 270 game.
277 run game, and where we also scored some 246 or something like that. So that was something, one of the highest runs scored in the game I played actually for the first time.
Yes. There were so many records broken. Wasim Jaffer would have been such a delighted man with Abhishek Sharma, who you've seen up close. I must ask, Wasim, of all the records broken, one was the highest by an Indian ever in the league. Whose record did Abhishek Sharma break?
Whose record?
It's someone who will be in action later today.
Today, as in tonight?
Later tonight, yes.
Okay.
Mumbai, Delhi.
Quick,
Surya
come on.
Kumar?
rapid fire.
KL Rahul?
KL Rahul is correct. Okay, it is an open quiz. It is also the highest score in a chase in IPL history, breaking a record that was set last year. Who was it?
By the Stoin. Marcus Stoinis?
That is correct. Matt Roller, always good with the numbers.
Well done.
Also, now the 3 highest chases in the history of the IPL have one thing in common to them.
Shreyas Iyer.
Oh, Piyush Chawla, with no intel. No one has shared that data with you. He is gunning for a spot in our stats team. Yes, as it stands, after
yeah,
last
mine know,
night's
but-
win,
Please write it down.
the 3 highest successful chases in the history of the IPL have come against teams led by Shreyas Iyer in the last 2 seasons. But that is not necessarily a bad omen. Punjab fans, last time it was KKR, and they went on to win the title despite conceding those 2 record high totals. So that is the stage set, and we are done with one half of this double header weekend, which at least we entered with 4 of the top 5 teams meeting 4 of the bottom 5 teams. Here's what the action from Saturday means to the points table. Sunrisers Hyderabad have lifted themselves from the basement for the first time in a while. But you have RCB and Rajasthan Royals in the first game today, separated only by 2 spots. So, as much as it feels like a very different start to their seasons, Wasim, a win here for Rajasthan, and all of a sudden, they're all level with RCB.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crucial game for them. They would want to turn around things, get their act together. And they'll be in that race again if they get 2 points here, and, they'll be in that mix again. And hopefully that confidence is back for them as well.
And later in the day, we'll have the table toppers, still the only unbeaten side in the competition, Delhi Capitals, and they will take on Mumbai Indians in what will be Delhi's first game in Delhi, having played their 2 home games in Vizag so far. But for the moment, the attention is on Jaipur. And an afternoon game in Jaipur, 38, 39 degrees, probably feels like 49. Piyush Chawla, how tough is it? Tell us from a player's perspective.
Well, it is tough because, when you go and play the afternoon game, it's not going to be that easy because of the heat. You make sure, all the players make sure that they are hydrated well, because you see a lot of cramps and then you're running around. And the T20 is a high intensity game. And in that high intensity, you don't want the cramps when you're running around. So I think everyone will be well prepared. They all are professionals, so they know how to tackle this.
Tough, isn't it?
It is tough, yeah, but part of the job. You play in April and May, so you got to expect it. Even the evening games are set to be evening games, but it's still very hot, it's still very humid. But day games, especially in that part of the world, is very tough.
All right. And as far as the toss goes in this one, it is RCB who have won the toss, and they will be bowling first. A day game in Rajasthan. But before we get into the details and the team news, how do Rajasthan fare in Jaipur? If you consider it is a ground that has been a fortress typically. They started all the way back in 2008 with 7 out of 7 wins in that title-winning campaign. And up until 2020, they remained one of the strongest. I mean, their overall win rate of 65% is still the second best in the league. It is second only to Chennai Super Kings, 68% even after all their losses so far this season. But it's interesting if you look at Rajasthan, once they returned home after the pandemic years where teams didn't play at home, 2023 was forgettable. They lost 4 out of 5, including the embarrassment of a 59 all-out against RCB, a 112-run defeat. But then last year, we saw Rajasthan Royals again making the Savai Mansingh Stadium a bit of a fortress with 4 wins out of 5. Wasim, how do you expect them? What can we gauge from the conditions from last season and how much that suits Rajasthan Royals as they are this year?
Well, I think the last couple of years they have been very strong. We've seen quality players playing for them, but they've lost quite a few good players. And they are struggling on that front. The impact sub rule is not benefiting them because they haven't got really quality players in the bench as well. So I think the players who they have trusted, the top 5 batters, including Shimran Hetmeyer, the bowlers need to get their act together. And RCB is a good team and they're a good travelling team this season, for a change. So this is the time to catch up and get these 2 important points here.
Yeah, let's go straight into that because as Wasim points out, RCB have had 2 different parts of this season. When they are away from home, they're dominating. When they're at home, it's not going quite as well. And the numbers are quite contrasting, especially when you look at their batting. RCB, in their games away from home, have maintained a scoring rate of 10.5, which would be a league high if it weren't for the 8.3s that they've managed. And they have usually been affected right at the start. The 2 power plays they've had at home, they've lost a bunch of wickets. They were 38 for 3 in one of the games, and I believe 60 for 2 in the other. But when they're away, they start well, and they manage to build on to that. Anything to add, Matt?
Yeah, it's been interesting to see them at the Chinnaswamy so far this year. I think game 1 they had a real top order collapse against GT, and then they obviously got off to a flyer in their last game at home against DC. But I think the ball probably stuck in the pitch a little more than they were anticipating. And in the first game, I think it was the seam movement that did them. Whereas it feels like they've been on relatively good surfaces, I would say, so far away from home, which I think suit them better. I think the interesting thing to see today is, I'd say relatively unusually for a day game, they've decided to bowl first, but they've had to bat first for the last 4 games. And you'd think with their sort of ultra-aggressive batting lineup that chasing might actually suit them better. So I think that might be one of the reasons for the toss decision.
Are they at times guilty of maybe aiming too high, given all the baggage around Chinnaswamy, and thinking that we might need a much bigger total than what's required?
I think that's the template most of the teams are going with because you get an extra batsman, so they go really hard from the get-go. So I'm not surprised with that, but I think the pitch in Chennai is a lot different than what it used to be. I think that's one of the problems. You can't expect with the kind of surface 200 plus, because I think it's playing very different to what it used to be. That's why probably they are playing better away from home. That's the only thing I can think of.
Does it feel like they have lesser pressure? Are they more liberated when they're playing away from home, be it a function of pitches or even crowd support?
Well, I mean, you won't mind that crowd support because, when the crowd of 25, 30 or even more behind you and cheering for you, I think, it adds to everything. So I think that support you need. You don't want, people not supporting you. So I don't think that's an advantage at all.
Don't mean it necessarily that way, but it can be daunting. I mean, of course, Virat Kohli has known it for so long, but a lot of the new players in RCB's mix, and they do have batters coming in who haven't played for RCB and in front of that crowd. So do you think it can be a factor, at least in the early parts of the season?
Well, to be very honest, it's not the thing which you think when you're playing, when you step onto the field, because the atmosphere is going to be like that. So you're already well prepared for that kind of an atmosphere. So that doesn't play a part, just that it's just the things are not going their way when they're playing in Bangalore. So we are talking about all these things. If it was going their way, so we must be saying, okay, the crowd support is there, every people are going, they're supporting them. So it's nothing to do with that, to be very honest.
I promise you, we'll bring it up both ways. We'll maintain that balance.
Exactly.
On that note, let's see how RCB are shaping up for this game. How do they line up for this day game in Jaipur? Unchanged. No changes at all. This is RCB bowling first after winning the toss. So you have Suyash Sharma in the 11. At times he is the impact player who comes in when they're defending totals. On the bench, you see Devdutt Padikkal. You'd imagine he's the likeliest one to come on. And all 4 overseas there, which means no room for Jacob Bethel yet. They are persisting, Wasim, with Liam Livingstone. You feel he has 1 or 2 games to really make a case before they start looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I think so. I think they will be thinking on those lines because he can give you a few overs with the ball. That's probably one of the reason. This is a big ground, so Liam Livingstone's bowling might come in handy. But his form as a batter, even the 54 that you see, he's got a couple of lives there. It was a scratchy inning. It wasn't a Liam Livingstone kind of inning, and I think him against spinners, he doesn't get away. He doesn't know how to rotate the strike. He's after bigger shots, which doesn't come very easily. And the opposite teams are not gonna give him the fast bowler straight away. So those are the battles, and they've got Jacob Bethel, who's damn good player. They've got Romario Shepherd, who's also fantastic finisher. So they will be thinking, but I think he'll probably get 1 or 2 games before they decide on that line.
There's the batting aspect of it. Livingstone also gets a lot of games because of his utility, how he can bowl. He can become a bit of a match-up bowler. But I think it's only 2 overs in the last 3 games. Does his bowling have enough to keep him in the team?
Well, his bowling come into the play depending on the situation where you're playing, the conditions. At this stadium at Jaipur, you might see him bowling maybe 2-3 overs because it's a kind of pitch which is like, stay low. You see a bit slowness in the surface, and considering it's an afternoon game, so you expect a bit of slow turn as well. So here you might use him. But when you're playing in a conditions like Bangalore, I know like the pitches are where with the last game which we saw, it was helping the spinners, but at the same time you have to bowl well because it's a small ground, margin of error is very minimum there. So considering all these factors, as Wasim bhai mentioned, he might get another 1 or 2 game if he doesn't come good with the bat.
And he does have pressure from a fellow Englishman. Jacob Bethel could be an exciting prospect for RCB to consider.
Yeah, he's been really impressive in his short international career so far, both against the white ball and the red ball in a Test series in New Zealand at the end of last year. I think, RCB will probably have had a very good season if Jacob Bethel doesn't play at some point during the IPL. But yeah, I think Livingstone is in that interesting spot that you can get into early in an IPL season where you've had 1 innings, a few quiet outings, and the narrative can change both ways very quickly. If he has another couple of failures, suddenly he's looking over his shoulder and he's out of the team. If he has 2 good days, then suddenly he's a key part of their success.
Does he split opinion as much back home in the UK as he does in the IPL circuit?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think he had an amazing breakthrough year in 2021 where he really came into the England team in his mid-20s. And I think there is a general sense that he probably hasn't quite fulfilled the potential that he showed at that time. Particularly at ICC events, he probably hasn't won the games with the bat that he's been expected to. He's obviously had a tricky role at times as a finisher. I think that's a tough thing, but I think it's interesting to see for me that RCB have gone with him batting at 5 generally this year ahead of, say, a Jitesh Sharma, who I would think might be better suited against spin, but I think it seems like the idea is that RCB think if you give him a few balls to get set, then he can be incredibly destructive at the end.
All right, that's enough you talking English players for the moment, because there's something else for you to focus on as we bring up the Rajasthan Royals 11. They do have a change, and one into Hasaranga, who missed out on the last game for personal reasons, is back. Hasaranga replaces Fazal Haq Farooqi from Rajasthan's previous 11, and this is their bat-first side, so they will have the option of Kumar Kartikeya and Yudhvir Singh if things go to plan. Hasaranga coming in obviously becomes a big talking point, and a day game, you'd expect him to have more of a role here.
Well, he's somebody, no matter which time of the day you are playing, he has a big role to play because wrist spinner with experience, and he already had one good outing in this tournament so far. And missing him in the last game was a big setback for RR, because then they went for plenty as well, because he's somebody who's a wicket taker who comes in that middle phase. He stops the run scoring with the wicket taking ability. So it was a simple equation for RR that if he's back, Fazal will be out, and now he'll definitely has a big role to play, because RR is a team which is under the pump, because not enough support for Jofra Archer, to be honest. So I think he has a big role to play now.
Yeah, and he's up against a former franchise of his. Intriguing, his IPL journey. Why don't you break it down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Hasaranga was obviously someone who I would say quite controversially got picked as RCB's main spinner when they let Yuzi Chahal go heading into that 22 season. And those two players actually ended up right at the top of the wickets tallies. We can see Hasaranga's breakdown year by year. He had by far his best IPL season in 22, taking 26, very good average and economy as well. Since then, it hasn't quite gone to plan. He was in and out of the team in 2023, missed last year with Sunrisers due to, I think, pulling out, citing injury. And this year, obviously, I think it was quite surprising he didn't play in their first game up at Hyderabad, and then obviously missed their last game for personal reasons. But as Piyush says, I think really showed how, that game showed just how much they need him. I was just breaking it down a little bit further as well and looking at Hasaranga's lengths in the IPL. And you can see that when he hits that good length, which he does more than half the time, he has outstanding numbers. So providing that he can stay consistent, he has very, very, pretty much unparalleled numbers in the league with that economy rate. It's when he misses, either on the short side or the full side, that you can get after him a bit. And I'd be interested to hear, Piyush, what you think his strengths are, because I thought he had a really good googly when he first came on, and I think that's still a strength of his.
Well, that's his strength. And you see at least 4 balls out of 6 balls, he bowls the wrong one. And it's important to cram the batters, because if you're bowling leggies, and it's like he's not a big turner of a leg spin either. So I think it's important to stick to your strength, and those lengths are very important. If you bowl good short of length ball, and where you're not giving enough time to the batter to go on the back foot and pull you over mid wicket or square leg, so it means you're doing a good job for the team. And he's somebody who does that quite often. And with his googly, it turns little more. So when it pitches on middle and leg, and batsmen, even if they go on the back foot, they don't have enough room to open their arm. That's where he becomes really important.
What do you consider, Wasim, at his best, where does Hasaranga probe batters the most?
Well, I think when he pitches in that 5 to 6 meter length, around that off stump, because I think most of the batters don't pick him, don't pick his googlies. We've seen that with Vijay Shankar when he played CSK. He's always hitting the stumps. That's when he's the most dangerous. But sometimes I feel he gets greedy as well. He throws the ball in the air, which lands around the batsman's arc, and today's batters, are just waiting for those kind of deliveries.
Correct.
So he does get greedy at times, wanting to take wickets, which is not wrong. But if he bowls that length, which is 5 to 6 meters, that's when I feel he's the most dangerous.
As far as his role in this Rajasthan Royals setup goes, there's also the importance of his batting, because we've spoken enough about the lack of balance in that side, and he's the only thing close to an all-rounder they possess.
Yeah, but not before anybody, in the top 6. So I think number 7 is his right position. But he hasn't contributed yet. He's got the skills, he's got the ability, But before that, the top 6 batters need to do, the major work, which hasn't happened. And it starts from Yashasvi and Sanju and Nitish, right to Shimran Hetmyer. They need to fire. You can't leave it to Hasaranga. He does come in and chip with some runs. But his main job is to come and pick wickets in the middle overs.
Back to the bowling role, there is a little added pressure, because it's not like his Sri Lankan counterpart. Mahesh Theekshana has had a great start to the season.
Yeah, he's been pretty quiet so far, actually. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how both of those guys go in Jaipur specifically. I'm sure they built that squad and that 11 with home conditions in mind to at least some extent. And both these guys would know that back in the day, it was obviously a bit of a fortress for Rajasthan playing at home, that team with Shane Warne in it at the start of the IPL. So I'm sure that's going to be a big thing for him across the season, is how he goes in their home games.
What do you imagine is the story for Theekshana? Because a couple of years back, he was a solid contributor to CSK's title-winning side. Is it just mystery being unravelled?
Well, it's not about the mystery. He was bowling the way he was bowling there. But Chennai, when you play home games, the wicket supports you, big ground, and then you have the support of the other bowlers also. So they create pressure, and then somebody like batters are going against him. So there's always a chance of a picking up wicket. But here, now he's the lead spinner with Hasaranga, I'll say. They're managing the same workload for both of them. So when you give that added responsibility to a bowler and with not much of a support around you, only Jofra Archer is someone who's bowling really well at the moment. And if you see the other bowlers, they're just coming and leaking too many runs. So not able to create that pressure. So it has nothing to do with that mystery has been solved. It's just that he's not having that enough support from the other bowlers at the moment.
Would you agree he's become progressively easier to decode for batters?
I think so. I think there's not a lot of mystery about him. I think the batters can generally pick up the carom ball. To the left hand as he bowl off spin. There's no mystery about that. The googly can be picked. So I think the batters have played him enough, and there's not a lot of mystery compared to the other bowlers in the league.
All right, that's on the focus on the spin for Rajasthan Royals, which will obviously come into the picture a little later. But we have also RCB bowling first, and their main strike bowler, Josh Hazlewood, is having a curious season. I'll just take you through the numbers quickly. He's been extremely good in the power play, as we come to expect. Decent at the death, but in the middle overs, and that I think is the function of 2 overs in itself. One where Hardik Pandya got into him and one where KL Rahul tucked into him. How do you assess what's happening with Josh Hazlewood?
Well, to be honest, it's a very small sample size because just 4 overs, and then you can't really say what he has done right or wrong in those 4 overs. Because it's a kind of league where you're gonna go for runs someday or the other, and 1 over will not decide how you have bowled. He has bowled really well throughout the season with the new ball in the death overs, and 4 overs which we saw in those middle phase, he bowled 2 good overs as well. But because he went for too many in those other 2 overs, that's why the numbers are showing like this. And it will happen to any bowler that 1 odd over batsman will go after you and they might click as well, and that's what happened when Hardik was batting and then KL Rahul. So you can't really say that he's not having a good season or in the middle overs he's not bowling that well.
Do the qualities that make him such a potent power play force, just being consistent with his lengths, hitting it, almost work against him in the middle overs? Does that in any manner make it easier for batters to line him up?
Well, I think his main length is to bowl that back of a length, hard length delivery, no matter what stage he is bowling. So I think he starts with that, but sometimes with old ball in the middle overs, the batters can line him up. Then he obviously goes back to his other variation. Don't forget he's got Hardik Pandya out as well in that Mumbai game. Bowling that Yorker in his legs. But I think his main weapon is to bowl that hard length, cramping batters for room. Once he gets hit on those deliveries, then he goes on to the other balls or other variations. So that's been his problem. He doesn't, starts like other bowlers where he's proactive and, throw in the bouncer or throw in the Yorker or slower balls. He doesn't do that. So, that's probably one of the reason I would say.
All right, let's see how RCB use him. No doubt, of course, that he will play a big role in the power play. But what else can we expect from the opening exchanges? Let's find out. Maruti Suzuki Arena presents Power Play Conversations. A couple of fascinating matchups which we can expect right at the top of both the innings. Later in the day, there will be Virat Kohli coming up against the bowler who's dismissed him most often in the IPL, in Sandeep Sharma. But before that, well, there is Josh Hazlewood. There's also Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who too has had a quietly impressive start to this season. And he comes up against Sanju Samson, who he has dismissed 4 times in the IPL.
Well, if you see Sanju when he comes into bat, when ball coming in, so he struggles a bit if he's not set, and Bhuvi knows that really well, and he knows how to exploit those conditions. And especially with Bhuvi's action, it doesn't matter how the wicket is, how the conditions are. He has that ability that he can swing the ball at least for first couple of overs. And the best thing about his bowling is he can do that both ways. So that really makes him an important bowler. And when you're bowling against somebody like Sanju Samson, you don't want him to get set. You want him to get out in the first 2-3 overs so that you are opening up the gate for the team for the other batters.
How would Sanju Samson be approaching this? There are obviously two quality bowlers in Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Josh Hazlewood. Yash Dayal also bowls a bit in the power plays. Is there any changing Samson's approach?
No, I don't think so. I think he's going to bat the way he bats. He'll look to take on the bowlers. Again, it all depends on how Yashasvi goes as well. If Yashasvi, bats for some time and we see the old Yashasvi, then it will make a job easier for Sanju Samson. But I think Sanju will play like how he does, and if there's an opportunity, he'll take on the bowlers because that's the way he plays. So I don't see him tamper with his approach at all.
I think it's been interesting as well in the last couple of games RCB have played. They've opened the bowling with Yash Dayal rather than with Josh Hazlewood and have used him to close out the power play, bowling 4 and 6 in that slightly more defensive role maybe. We've obviously seen Jaiswal occasionally has got out to left arm seam. I think he was caught deep point last time against left arm seam. So I'm not sure.
Yes.
Not sure there's too much predictive value there. But that'll be an interesting head-to-head to watch. And I think, Yash Dayal has had a solid start to the season.
Why I do bring up Sanju Samson's approach and whether he will consider reworking it is because of his comments in the lead up to this game. And Samson was talking about his role, and in the press conference he said, my role definitely has changed. It changes in every team you play. When I play for the India team, we are batting deep and we are expected to go hard from ball 1. But here our team combination is such where we need to actually play a different kind of role. Does that in any way point to perhaps Rajasthan Royals thinking that one at least of their top 3 batters needs to just bat slightly differently?
Well, you want somebody to play that sheet anchor role with the strike rate of 140 is also fine because now 140 has become a norm these days. Because when you talk about going hard, so then you talk about 170, 180, but 140, 135 has become a norm. So you want one of your top 3 to bat till 14, 15 over. And we have seen whenever a one batter out of top 3 has batted in that fashion, the team score has always crossed 200. So I think it's very important from that point of view. And as Sanju also mentioned in his press conference that he will take that responsibility, and he is somebody who's capable of doing that, and he has done that in the past as well.
All right. Almost set for the start. The teams are out. RCB in their green. This is their annual green day. Used to be a day of a lot of runs earlier because I think it was one of the first games they played in green where Chris Gayle smashed 37 in an over against Kochi Tuskers. There's also been a double century partnership in green for AB de Villiers and Virat Kohli. Not quite worked their way in recent years as this green day. The pitch report, our friend Varun Aaron had said it's a good batting deck. That is the intel I can give to you guys as I ask you to predict a first innings total. Piyush.
Between 185, 190.
All right. Wasim.
177.
Oh, you are low bowling this time. Okay.
I'll go even lower. I'll go 170, it being Jaipur.
170. And does that have anything to do with this being a day game?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think more to the point is Jaipur. I think of that as a ground with quite long pockets in particular. That was something I noticed when I've been to a couple of games there. I think it is slightly bigger dimensions than some venues in IPL. And I'm backing RCB to have a good day.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
We
are up and running for this Sunday double header. Thank you, Matt, Wasim, Piyush. Look forward to your company. Be sure to join us at halftime at the end of Rajasthan Royals' innings on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.